All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. Paul Traney here, diving into actually a little bit of 3D magic, uh, if you will. So, just want to welcome everyone. And yeah, I'm going to be using Adobe Dimension. I'm going to show you some artwork, and I'm also going to be using Photoshop. So I kind of want to introduce you to these two. Yeah, super fun. Awesome, cool. Now that everybody's filing in, good to see these familiar names. And yeah, please feel free to say hello in the comments or chat or wherever you are. CIA Design, I see you there. Munir, Bonnie, good to have you here. So we're going to dive into this if you don't mind. I'll kind of switch gears and just kind of share my desktop with you, if I could, right in here, and just kind of catch a vision for what I'm going to be doing. Ty Harris, hopefully you like this, and Nicole as well. So this is actually what I do a lot of. So you can see we're like right in here. So I'm not a morbid person, but I do a lot of things with, like, I guess, skulls for whatever reason. But the big thing is like I do a lot of compositing where it's marrying 2D and 3D, and that's what's happening here. This is actually a 3D skull. So if I dig deep enough into these 275 layers, we should see the skull in here somewhere. So we have the bones, and yeah, so the skull is actually a 3D skull. It might take me a second to find it, but it is in here, and that's actually what I did. Same thing and I'm going to close this because this is just so large. There's another skull I want to talk about, but this sort of matching that skull with her face, right? And that also being 3D, just a 3D layer as well. So that's what I'm going to cover, just so you know. So hopefully that works for you. Hello, Haldor from Iceland. Good to have you here. Wafe Chan as well. Tassel from Norway. Felicia, good to see you here as well. Gregors from Poland. Cool. So again, kind of doing some of that stuff. And I thought, okay, well, let's just do some cool artwork that kind of marries some real world elements and then some bones and some different things. Here's also a render, by the way. So currently I'm in Photoshop. Here's a render that I did in Dimension. So I can show you how to do this really fast. But just the flexibility that you have in Dimension is awfully nice. And really, it's your gateway drug to 3D. So let me open up Dimension. Here I am. Again, File, New, just to give you an idea. Pretty straightforward. You're going to get this canvas, and you're going to get a bunch of starter assets. So I'm going to dive into this if I could. Diana's at work. Hopefully it's okay that you're watching. I hope so. You can grab elements in here, and a lot of times we talk about packaging, right? It's like, oh, let's put this in here, and let's put a logo on it, which I get it. We could totally do that, but I like approaching Dimension from a more artistic standpoint, right? So I'm going to get rid of that altogether. But yes, you do have all these objects off to the side that you could drop in, and you know exactly what they're going to do. Another thing you can do is that you can actually search for assets. So I have a ton of assets in here. Again, I can drop in what I want just to give you an idea. I can add, in fact, let me add first off maybe a background image like so. You can see that right there. Let's add some lights like so, right? And you get the idea. This is my object. Let's kind of move this around and adjust accordingly. Right, I can use my keys, 1, 2, 3. I can make this metallic, because that's the next thing I wanted to do. It's like, let's make this metal, right? And now it actually will start reflecting that environment. But more importantly, I actually want it to reflect, wait for it, my environment needs to be this same image. So let me just drop that right there, okay? And actually I could use this match image button, but basically that's what's being reflected now in this object is that background. Okay, so that's the fundamentals of it, and now you know. Awesome. Munir, you first worked with Keyshot. I don't know Keyshot, but that's super interesting. Just kind of curious. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and take this to the next level. What you can do is you can actually search assets. Let's do skull. Hello, hopefully people can still see me. Okay, cool. Fantastic. It's still up and running. I can search skull, but this is what I want to do. I can actually kind of use elements from, let's go out here. Boom, here we are. From Adobe Stock. So 3D, or get them from wherever. Turbo Squid might be another place. Not TurboTax, Turbo Squid. You can actually search for free models, but again, you're gonna get what you pay for. So right in here, skull. If it's a common item, I might be able to get it. Just go into price and just do free. Okay, and you can see there's some free skulls in here in this case. And the big thing is I typically like to make sure it's an OBJ or just something simple. Make sure I have that file format squared away. And that's also in here, formats OBJ. Show me all the OBJs that are free. Here's one. Thank you very much. Download, and then I can bring that right into Dimension. Okay, just so you know, Stock makes it even easier. So here I've actually saved to my library this skull, by the way. I have a couple skulls and a skeleton. So I can just search in skull. Let's find that skull. That happens to be 3D right up here. Here's all the, I actually have it in a couple different libraries, but with this one I can drop in here like so. Okay. What's up, Moises from Mexico? Good to see ya. Into it. So once you find what you want, you can drop it in. You have this ability to kind of control these top buttons are actually for manipulating the object. So move the object, scale the object, rotate the object. You have selection tools, and then you have the environment. So rotate the environment, rotate around. So oftentimes I'll use this. I'll kind of rotate or match this horizon line, which actually there's a shortcut to... should be able to match that anyways, but I kind of rotate that around. Same thing for sort of moving the object, maybe scaling it back a little bit, and again, just manipulating the scene here, okay? As I take a look, I want to be really aware of what's selected, so I might select, say, the environment, okay? In the environment, I can change the intensity of that light or the rotation of that light. And let's turn on sunlight, because here's the sunlight is going to cast a shadow, and then I can start to deal with the rotation of that shadow. So I can make it look like it's coming from any direction, right? So that's what I'm doing right now. This will be available later after this live stream, Josh, just so you know. So thanks so much for joining us. Brand, good to have you here. Sweet. So yeah, that's what I'll do, and I'll typically drop something in. Let's make something more exciting. You know, this is really straightforward. By the way, we could do a couple things. In fact, since I have this set up, I'm going to go ahead and come up here and publish a 3D scene, and we're going to call this Desert Skull, right? And we'll create that public link. Okay, so it's going to create, and I'm basically publishing this 3D scene. This is brand new as of Adobe Max last year. Hello, Ahmad. Good to have you here. So again, you're going to be able to rotate this around. One thing you're not going to rotate is this, that you're not going to change the perspective of the background because that's only an image. Okay, but once we have that link that we're publishing out, we can go ahead and put this anywhere we want, send the link to your friends, embed it into your portfolio, things like that is what you'll do. I could also render this. Munir probably knows this. You could render this as a PSD. We can also do a cloud rendering as well, so it's not even impacting our CPU. So copying that public link, let's view it on the web. I'm going to paste it into chat, if I could. That should be it. And let's just go ahead and pin that comment and pasting it there as well. Just pasting in that link, and you can see right in here, this is where we have our 3D model, right? So that's the idea, okay? Cool. We can move on. Yes, you can model anything. Let me actually double check, because you want to do a file import 3D model, okay? So we'll do 3D model. It's going to be OBJ files with textures. I don't know what other file formats, but OBJ is like pretty standard format. So that's all you do, file import, right? And from there, even once you imported it, regardless of the textures, so you can see right here, this skull, as I click on it, it has this material right here as the base color, right? I can get rid of this altogether. Or what I could do is I could make something more fun. Again, I'll go to starter assets, I'll go to something. Let's go with glitter. Why not? Dropping some glitter on there. Let's do a geometric gold. Okay, kind of like that. And you can see that's what I'm applying to the skull, and I can also apply it to the teeth as well, or I can go with brass. But that's what I'm doing right now. We can make something really interesting, and in fact, let's go to the backgrounds and grab just a different background as well. So now we're going to just do something a little bit more artistic. From here, remember, it's still reflecting that desert scene. So maybe what I want to do for my lights, for one, I want to grab this studio color stage. And there we have that studio color stage. I already think this is much more interesting than what I had before, right? And again, I can control the lights, the intensity of the lights, the rotation of the lights as we see that kind of move around. But I want to highlight the face just like that. And now I can publish out a new abstract skull. Abstract skull. Like that. Create that public link. It'll do its thing. Okay? All pretty straightforward. Actually, is that gonna... Oops, I moved it down. Sometimes you'll move things below the plane. We'll just select the object and say, hey, you know what? Put it back on the ground plane. Boop. There it is. Right? Or give it more room, whatever the case may be. But for my uses, typically I want to render this out. The rendering varies depending on how complex this object is. We're just going to do low and fast. Call this skull. Render that to my desktop. That's what's happening right now. One thing I didn't click on is this cloud rendering that we have introduced recently as well. Awesome. What's the hardware requirements to work comfortably with Adobe 3D? Honestly, I don't have all the video cards and all that stuff like memorized, to be honest with you. Usually I would go something... Of course, we're going to have the minimum system requirements and the recommended system requirements available for Adobe Dimension. So just follow those. The faster, the better, obviously, right? But another key thing is just to be really smart about how you set up all of these various objects, right? This is actually pretty clean. I'm going to be able to add some fun stuff to it as well. All I did is picked a low and fast render, and it's rendering now, and your render's finished and saved. Fantastic. I want to bring that again. Here's one I made earlier, but let's open up. On the desktop, we can see this skull 2 that I just rendered out. Opening that up, we get, of course, our object, and then we get additional layers for selecting. Look at this. Let's turn this off. We want to change out the background. We could easily do that as I'm doing right now. Like, let's throw sort of a different, highlight on that or whatever. Let's take another image or something and kind of bring that in, and I don't know, just do something with it is all I'm doing. Just showing you that basically I can implement this like I would anything in Photoshop. Okay, I don't even know if that's working, but I do have this already squared away. Okay, let me show you one more thing. I might get this wrong. You ready for this? Oh, you like the cloud rendering? Cloud rendering is really cool. So let me show you this. Let me take this to the next level. Okay, so I can add what I want. Let me add a couple more things really fast. Coming in here. Grabbing, I don't know, some artistic elements. Let's throw down that. Right, we have some cool stripes. Triangles are just really cool. We'll drop in some weird triangle thing that also is a color as I kind of play with this. Like that. Let's go with that. Here's my design. I'd say that's done. Everything looks good. You ready for this? I'm going to show you something really cool that I'm really excited about. Yeah, I guess the skull's pretty cool. All right, saving this out. We're going to save this as skull JPEG. Then we're going to turn on these additional layers, because the additional layers, you actually have this additional information. Okay, so we have materials for selecting. Okay, so I can come in and just select the teeth if I want to. Other object selection masks. This depth information is what I want. This time I'm going to save this out as a JPEG, and I'm going to call this depth. DPTH, just like that. Saving that. Saving. And architectural modeling, just so you know, you're going to have CAD programs. Like, our job is not necessarily to get into the modeling space too deeply, because there's already players there that you're kind of already taken care of. This is all about, just like Photoshop doesn't take photos, Dimension doesn't create anything. It does all the compositing, so it brings it all together. So you're not doing any actual modeling. So that's the short of it. You could, as long as you can save it out as an OBJ from that CAD program or whatever, then you can bring it in. So in this case, I'm going to do something. Here's some 3D. Let's grab these two objects right here. These two images, one skull depth. We're going to drop them right in there. It's going to recognize them. Facebook will recognize them based on their file name. So it's going to be like, hey, I'm going to create a 3D photo. It is very Terminator style. You're right. But this is what I have now. Now look what I have. As I move this around, look at that. Move your mouse around, and we have that nice depth. That's based on that depth map. Okay? Really cool what you can do right here. And again, another 3D skull. So many skulls. This is done in Dimension plus Photoshop. As you've guessed. There it is. I'll go ahead and post this. There you go. Really super easy, but that's the goal, is to show you how to start with something maybe relatively simple. Either render that out. Check this out. There's a couple other things we could do really fast. Let's go to the skull. Let's go to File. Let's go to Export. Export selected models. Boop. There we are. As an OBJ. So we'll export this out to our desktop, and we'll call this skull. OBJ. You ready for this? So not only have I brought in an image into Photoshop, as we saw, right? But right in here, we can go ahead and bring in new 3D layer from a file. Yeah, let's do that. There's my OBJ, bringing that in like so. Yes, thank you very much, CIA Design. You can publish online directly from Dimension, which is why I pasted that link earlier. So right in here, now what we have is we have the actual skull in 3D. Just like we moved it around in Dimension, we can move this around in Photoshop now as well. So like I had that image of this lady right here. Let's kind of put her back there. I can take this skull and kind of map it closer to her face, which is what I'm doing now. Shrink it down. We need to rotate it. Zoop. Right? You get the idea. I'm going to turn off the shadows, so it doesn't really matter where this is. And bring that up, right? And, map that accordingly, right? As I open up the 3D panel, you can see you have your camera, you have your lighting, and a bunch of other stuff, right? So that's kind of how that works. Properties will allow you to get it more intense. I'm going to say turn off the shadows because I don't need this shadow. on it in general. And by the way, this gets treated just like any other layer. So as I select this, let's go ahead and play or change the blend mode to something like that. And yes, I will need to adjust it a little further to kind of get it just right. Ooh, not the light. Notice how I had the light selected? You actually need to have the skull or just the current view selected. And look, now I'm kind of rotating that into view like that. B for brush on that layer. Make this a little larger and paint away maybe that part, something like that. You get the idea. Now we got sort of the making of something potentially pretty cool here, but you could easily see how I got to this particular design. Okay, wait for it. Ghost Hunters has a 3D image on their Facebook page. Oh, that's cool, Carol. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to check it out. I will have to check it out. All right, scroll down. I think I might have missed some messages. All right, fantastic. But again, you can see right here, you've learned the fundamentals for using 3D to make whatever you want. Starting in Dimension is going to give you a lot of control over the lighting, the environment, all that fun stuff. And then you can also do some advanced stuff in Photoshop. So this is the answer is yes, Will. It is part of Creative Cloud and as well as a standalone product. So you can click right up here. We did just like add it to the box, if you will. We just added it to Creative Cloud, right? At no extra cost to you. There's Dimension, photorealistic 3D for creative designers. Okay. So yeah, now you know. We did purchase Algorithmic, which is a company that does a lot of 3D textures and things, so expect to see more in the 3D space from Adobe sort of moving forward. So, all right, everyone, have a... Yes, you love the light and the models in Dimension. Yeah, it's just so much fun to play with. And it's really fast, by the way. That's what I like about Dimension as well. Just really quick and responsive, and it gets me what I want, and quick results. And then you have cloud rendering, so you don't even have to use your machine for rendering. So thanks, Carol and Juliet and Sergio and Will and everyone. Really appreciate you hanging out with me. Yeah, that's about it. Hit me up on all the social medias. Would love to chat more if you have any questions going beyond today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Don't forget to brush your teeth, all right? And drink lots of water. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.